Here.
And we do have a quorum. We'll now have the invocation from David Gray, pulpit minister from Glenpool Church of Christ. And if you will remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
If you would, please pray with me. Father in heaven, we lift our hearts to you today, and we're grateful for the knowledge that when we do so, you turn your face, you listen to us, you hear our plea. We're thankful for the many blessings you've given us, including this season that we have where the earth is blooming and blossoming and reminding us that you are the author of life. We're thankful for our nation and our state and our city. We're thankful for these servants who faithfully serve here to make this a wonderful place to live. Father, we ask your blessings on them and on the community they serve. We ask your blessings on each one of us as we seek to serve you. We ask you to watch over our families and keep them safe. And that all that we do and say may be to give glory to you. We offer this prayer in the name of your Son, our Savior, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Attention, salute, pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We now have a proclamation, National Public Works Week in the city of Glenpool. I will now read that proclamation. Proclamation declaring Public Works Week in Glenpool. Whereas Public Works professionals focus on infrastructure, facilities, and services that are of vital importance to sustainable and resilient communities and to the public health, high quality of life, and well-being of the people of Glenpool. And whereas these infrastructure, facilities, and services could not be provided without the dedicated efforts of our public works professionals who are engineers, managers, employees at all levels of government and private sector, who are responsible for rebuilding, improving, and protecting our nation's transportation, water supply, water treatment, and solid waste systems, public buildings, and other structures and facilities that are essential for our citizens. And whereas it is of public interest for the citizens, civic leaders, and children in Glenpool to gain knowledge of and maintain an ongoing interest and understanding of the importance of public works and public works programs in their respective communities. And whereas the year 2026 marks the 66th annual National Public Works Week sponsored by the American Public Works Association. Now, therefore, it is hereby proclaimed that the week, May the 17th through the 23rd, 2026, as National Public Works Week. I urge all citizens to join with representatives of the American Public Works Association and government agencies in activities, events, and ceremonies designed to pay tribute to our public works professionals, engineers, managers, and employees, and to recognize the substantial contributions they make to protecting our national health, safety, and advancing quality of life for all. Adopted and signed this 4th day of May 2026. Very nice. You're welcome. Moving on, we will now do our management report. David, did you have addition to your management report?
Yes, ma'am. I've got a few items that have come up that I want to make everybody aware of. The 126th Street Bridge, the replacement process for it is set to begin May 11th. Should run just that week, the 11th through the 15th, but that road will be closed down during that process while they work on that bridge. The Kendallwood Stormwater Road project will begin May 18th. It is a little bit longer duration, so that will, we're just going to talk about it starting on the 18th, and we talk about these publicly this week. Farmers Market is set for May 9th. Is that our kickoff date this coming Saturday. You have Black Gold Park. Our ODOT has sent us a notification we received today that they will be moving forward with a public hearing on the corridor study for Highway 75 from 151st to 211th. That is set for May 26th. That is a Thursday night. It'll run from 5 to 7 here at the conference center. So we will be putting all of this information out it's a public open house about the project, as I said, they listed Tuesday, May 26th.
Tuesday is.
It's May 26th, thank you.
It's May 26th.
You said that was
So
151,
Tuesday.
211? Is that-
211, yes. And
Or
so,
Corridors Day.
yes, so this is the piece we've had some few conversations about individually, that I've given you guys some updates on, where they're looking at the possibility of frontage roads or other types of pieces in the long term. This is not a plan of improvement that's immediately on the 8-year plan. This is a study that says this is what we want to do in the long term. And so this is still early in the process, in their planning design process, but they are inviting the public out to this meeting so that they can start getting some feedback on where they would want to go in the long term.
It'll be downstairs.
It will be downstairs in the conference center. So the last thing on my list is as of Friday, I think it was Friday, we gave, effective actually today, but Sarah Griffin, who is our projects manager for Public Works, has been promoted to Deputy Public Works Director. We're appreciative of all the work that she has done, especially stepping in during the time that our Public Works Director has been out on medical leave, keeping things running, moving smoothly. She's done an amazing job. I apologize she's not here tonight. She's been at the plant all day, working on issues and problems out there, and so we did not make her come in after being at the sewer plant all day long for this evening for you guys, but I did just want to publicly say we appreciate what she's done and announce that.
Let's give her a hand of recognition anyway. No, she's not. She's fantastic.
So
Thank you.
that is all the comments I have. I'll answer any questions that council has.
Are there any questions of David's report, councilors? Hearing none, we'll move on to the mayor's report. I do not have a actual report, but I do have to go to Oklahoma City on Wednesday of this week. It's state boards in Oklahoma City. It takes up most of my day. We start off with legislative committee, but it's a very inspiring way to get your month started. Moving on, do we have council comments, please? Hearing none, do we have any public comments?
No, ma'am.
Thank you. We'll move right on into our consent agenda, items 1 through 3. Is there any item we need to remove for additional discussion? Hearing none, do we have a motion on the consent agenda?
I'll make a motion to accept the consent agenda.
I'll second that, or Rhodes has seconded it. Would you call the roll, please?
Vice Mayor Lunch,
Yes.
Mayor Calvert,
Yes,
Councilor Brooks,
Yes.
Councilor Fox.
Yes.
and it does pass. Moving on to our scheduled business, discussion and possible action to approve, amend, or deny the proposed ordinance number 835. It is an ordinance adding Chapter 13, General Provisions to Title I, Administration of the Code of Ordinances for the City of Glenpool, Oklahoma, providing for the display of flags by the City of Glenpool at City of Glenpool facilities. The purpose for the ordinance, the city's intent to only display the flag of the United States, the flag of the state of Oklahoma, the National League of Families Prisoner of War MIA flag, the state of Oklahoma MIA flag, the flag of the City of Glenpool, the flags of the United States Armed Forces, and the flag of the Muskogee Creek Nation at city-owned or operated facilities. Adopting a policy for the display of flags by the City of Glenpool at city facilities, order of presence or display of flags, no other flags on city flagpoles, city manager's authority to order flags to half-staff, repealing all ordinances to the contrary and declaring an emergency. David Tillison will speak to us on this.
Mayor and Council, this ordinance, we had a request, Mayor, for us to look into what it would take to fly the Muskogee Nation flag. Some other cities in the area have done, and so as we started looking into that, it came to light that we do not have a flag ordinance at all in our code that dictates what we can or cannot do with flags. And looking at some of the other communities around us, many of them had this ordinance already in place that they were just modifying to go about this process. So we have created an ordinance based on very closely what City of Broken Arrow has in theirs. A few changes to that, but what it does is it allows us to fly specific flags only at city facilities. Now, it does not necessitate that we fly all the flags at every city location. For example, our memorial site, our Armed Forces Memorial Site will have the flags of the armed services, but it won't have necessarily the city flag at it, for example. Here at the conference center, we won't have the armed services flags, we'll have the others. At this time, the only place that we have for certain decided that we would want to fly the Muskogee Nation flag is here at the conference center because it's also our city hall complex. It will necessitate a little bit of change in how our flags are done out front. We're still working through what that looks like. For us, there may be some costs to change our flagpoles around, but as I said, we're still working our way through some of that process. So the other big piece that it does is it limits, this allows us to say by ordinance, to kind of say this is the only flags that we want to be flying. We're not going to have private or individual flags or other pieces allowed on our public property at city-owned facilities, city-owned parks, those kinds of places. So it sets out those rules and puts those into place for that. And staff is recommending approval of the ordinance.
Thank you for that, David. One quick question where it says city manager's authority to order flags to half-staff. Will we not have to act when the governor calls for half-staff?
Our current policy and what we will continue to follow is when we get an email from the National Flag Association, basically is what it does. It comes to Paul as the emergency management director. When they order those, either the president or the governor, that they have, that we then follow what that has already been set. If you look at item E in the ordinance, it says that we will display them with the city manager or his designee may order flags on city property to be lowered to half-staff in honor of a city employee killed in the line of duty. So those instances aren't covered under federal or state recognition. This gives us the authority to move forward and lower those locally. If a city employee has been killed in the line of duty, for example, or other piece that we want to be able to honor them with this, we have the ability to do that locally.
Very good. That answers my question. Thank you. Any other questions of David, councilors?
Is it restricted to city employees?
The current wording of the ordinance is restricted to city employee killed in the line of duty.
Well, I was thinking we have other officers in our community, OHP and different ones that it would have been good to.
But we would fly, for example, if we have an OHP officer killed and they order the state flag to have staff in that, we would follow along in that process because that's a governor's authority.
But as a citizen of Glenpool.
But as a community, then we can come back to that later.
We can, and I think it's worded tonight that you have the ability to amend. What I would say is we want to be, who has that authority to do that? How does that need to be done? Because there is a concern, right? Am I the one responsible for finding out who's passed, who hasn't passed? Did they pass in the line of duty? Did they not? Were they still residents or they just were residents? What happens if I miss somebody? I track that. The current city employee, we know immediately what's happening.
Well, my only concern with city employee is, God forbid, a city council member passed while on. I would think that would qualify as something.
I would say that, yes, I could understand that as well pretty easily.
But
The only
that's not
thing
a
I
city
have-
employee, so-
Because we would know, right?
City employee or.
Well, what we didn't do is, and there was some conversation internally. Was it just current city employees or should this extend to former city employees and former council members? And what I came back to is the same piece. I don't always know when those occur. And so it was just trying to find that middle ground where we honor those here, specifically because this is meant to be killed in the line of duty, right? It's not something that somebody had a sickness and they passed. While those are sad and we grieve in that process, the council wants to do that for current city council members as part of that. So city employees and officials, maybe a good way to say that. Eric might have a different language to suggest there, but I think adding and officials. But again, it's for us on our side, it's killed in the line of duty is the way that it's currently worded. So I don't know exactly how that would work with council members. We may need to change that line slightly as well.
In theory, we're always.
Maybe while in office or something.
Yeah.
For us as a city, this would mean, not as an illness or something, it would be dealt with in another community years ago where they were down in a sewer piece and they lost 2 of their employees from that years ago in a public works department. It would be those types of things for us with this particular deal. And so maybe it is a city employee killed in the line of duty or a council member while, during their term of office. Maybe something like that would delineate that and fix that issue. I think that would be appropriate as well.
I just want to know why Chris looked at me when he said that.
I looked down the whole level.
That would be to change the language of item, which would that be? 113.1E, to say in honor of a city employee killed in the line of duty or a council member during the term of their service.
Well, and people that are serving on that.
Yeah, if you say city official,
It's official.
I think it would cover that. Killed, again, killed is a strong word in that because that's typically associated with killed in the line of duty. So maybe it's
Pass away.
a city employee killed in the line of duty or a city official who passes.
No, you really don't want him looking at you.
Yeah. Okay, so let me open another can of worms here.
Okay.
That also, they're killed on 151st. I mean,
If
they
it's
may
in
not have
the,
been on duty, but
Yeah.
they get,
if it is,
they're a current employee.
the way it is currently worded, it would be either on duty or they were doing work for the city for some purpose. It's just almost always going to be on duty when that happens, but it may not be during business
Sometimes
hours.
our officers are driving their cars and they're not necessarily on duty, but they're that transport between home and work or
Yeah.
whatever, so.
Guys, I think we can read something into this all night long. Official who passes during their term of office.
Right.
It doesn't say where or how or.
No,
Yeah.
the question was because the city employee,
Oh, okay.
if they passed while driving and got in a car, that accident occurred.
But you also have, if something weird occurred, you do have the ability to order that, as David does have the ability to override and say, we want to make an exception here, or?
I don't do that.
Okay.
And I don't know that,
Because I was just under city manager's authority to order flags to half staff, so I thought that would give you.
see, to be lowered to half staff in honor of, and that's the phrasing that would require it. They would have to meet those conditions to be lowered to half staff.
Maybe not knowing someone that we missed.
Right, if we want to extend it, I want to be very careful how far we extend it.
Sure.
That would be my
I understand.
Right.
piece.
Do we have a motion?
What's the official word?
A city official who passes during their term of office.
Okay, let's see if I can get this right here. I'd like to make a motion to amend the proposed ordinance number 835 to include a city official who passes during their term of office. Second.
In subsection E.
In subsection E.
I'm good with that. I'll second that.
Mayor Calvert,
Yes.
Councilor Brooks,
Yes.
Councilor Fox,
Yes,
Vice.
Possible action to approve or deny an emergency clause for ordinance number 835. David Tillison.
Mayor, by approving an emergency clause, we allow this to go into effect immediately upon publication. And that way, in the event that we have an issue that occurs, we can honor that immediately.
I'll make the motion that we, please call the roll.
Councilor Brooks,
Yes.
Councilor Fox,
yes,
Vice Mayor Lund,
Yes,
Mayor Calvert.
Yes, and it does pass. Item number 3, discussion and possible action to approve, amend, or deny the lane configuration of the Elwood Avenue project between 151st Street and 137th Street. We've all been talking about this. David A. is going to go over that with us now.
Mayor and council, good evening. This item is to discuss the lane configuration. Go see, permit me to come up here.
Thank you.
I have brought some very smart people with me to tag team on this presentation. I do have Mr. Sean O'Leary, he is the project manager from Poe and Associates, and I also have Mr. Craig Moody, who's in charge of public engagement, public communication, and all that good stuff from Poe and Associates. So if you see me look back, just probably Poe and Associates, they've been on top of this project, gone above and beyond in providing support to the city and being extremely professional with this project. So kudos to Poe and Associates. I'll dive right into this presentation. In this presentation, we'll talk about the project introduction, talk about project funding. If you go to the agenda, please, the slide, previous slide. We'll talk about some design considerations, traffic analysis. We'll talk about the proposed lane typicals, 3 lanes, 4 lanes, 5 lanes. We'll talk about great feedback. We'll talk about that. We'll be making a staff recommendation based on everything we've discussed above. We'll take questions and open the floor for the council to have some discussion and decision. Next slide, please. This project, as we know, is the widening of Elwood from 151st all the way to 137th. It's a move Glenpool forward project. In the move Glenpool signalization, and then you also have the widening of the corridor itself. And this project captures those 2 projects on the list. The city of Glenpool, obviously, we plan to improve traffic capacity, enhance safety along the corridor, provide pedestrian access as we don't have any sidewalks, multi-use trails along the corridor, make some stormwater improvements, deal with the intersection at 140 here. We did receive some STBG grant funding to the amount of $722,000 and some change in federal funding with a city pledge of $180,000 and some change, being a total of $902,000. I should also mention that the city has received grant funding for the construction portion of 141st intersection to the amount of $3.4 million, with a city match of about $850,000. So the total project cost is about $4.2 million first and up to city right of way on 151st. It does not get into 151st corridor as that is ODOT's right of way. But for design, as I mentioned on this slide, we have $902,000. Next slide, please. There are several key design considerations with this project. There is some floodplain along the corridor. Several utilities along this corridor that need to be considered impacts to utilities. Same thing for right-of-way impact, how much right-of-way we try to take as a part of this project, and how much temporary or permanent easement is project. Provide pedestrian access for our kids, our vulnerable road users, and that also includes bicycle pedestrian, as shown in the multi-use trail concept. Also improve aesthetics. We want, next slide, please. Now let's talk about some of the traffic considerations with this project. On the existing roadway, as we know today, we know pretty much everything on this intersection. It's a 4-way stop-controlled intersection at 146th Street that leads to the school. It's a 2-way stop control intersection, both on the northbound and the southbound side, while the east-west movement is free-flowing. We have no pedestrian access, as we talked about. It's 40 miles per hour along the corridor at 35 as you approach the 141st intersection. 3,300 and 5,300 vehicles per day, depending on the segment of roadway that you're looking at. And that's 2026 data. Now, if you project for 25 years, vehicles per day as of 2015, those numbers are very a little bit more. Over here, we've done a quick introduction into levels of service in the past with some minor delays. We have level of service C, which is stable flow. It's an acceptable delay. You get into level of service D, and that's approaching unstable flow level. Looking at the table on top, we can see that in the evenings, we have 141st westbound movement with a level of service E, and the 150 that we're seeing on this table as we read it. Now, this analysis also talks about the 2025 traffic data of it being the 141st intersection being signalized, the 151st intersection being signalized. It also analyzes the 2050 data. It also considered a roundabout intersection control, and we can get into some of those details if you need me, but I just kept it high level. And also talked about 151st data. You're projecting a level of service D and C in some areas, D and C we also have CMB in some areas with signals versus roundabouts. So invariably, 141st being the focus intersection here was analyzed for a traffic signal, and it does meet the signal warrants, which is to put in a traffic signal. Next slide, please. A roundabout was also considered for this intersection at 100 and southbound yield control right turn bypass lane, which is the yellow arrow you see on the roundabout, the southbound lane. And East 151st intersection requires a dual lanes required in eastbound and westbound approach. And the overall finding shows that it's expansion. So in summary, a roundabout will also function effectively at this intersection. Next. Levels of service. Currently, as I mentioned earlier, we were between 3,000 and 5,000 vehicles per day. In looking at those numbers, we're seeing that a 2-lane currently will function at a level of service D and E. A 3-lane will function overall at a level of service C, 5-lane. Now with traffic analysis, we typically don't differentiate A and B. It's kind of in the same category, so A or B. This slide is so important, I put it twice in the report, so please you can skip 2 slides. That signalization at 141st Street and at 151st Street intersection, exclusive, and then at 146th Street is expected to operate well even with the existing. In northbound right turn lane at East 1, as well as, now talking about the lane configuration, the traffic analysis says that a 3-lane, anything more than a 3-lane or more, it could be 3, 4, 5, but anything from 3 and above will provide the best traffic operations. Next slide. 3 lanes, you have going from the left to the right, you have the sidewalk, you have a lane, a 12-foot lane in one direction. And you also have a multi-use path, which could be for pedestrian or bicycle activities. On that corridor today, we have quite a number of bikes regularly. In the middle picture, we have 4 lanes, both being 12-foot lanes with a multi-5-lane configuration, each lane being 12-foot. Now, this includes curb and gutter on all of these configurations. Next slide, please. Let's talk about funding and budget, a little construction budget, and that does not include utility relocation and right-of-way acquisition. So that's 14.8 million, somewhere about 2 million extra. And then next slide, please. The 5-lane configuration is 18.4 million. Next slide, please. We had a very successful public meeting and answered a lot of questions. So my job is here is just to summarize some of the 226 respondents to the survey. We also had a few respondents through paper, which Paul also analyzed. Some portion of that 89 actually live along the corridor. We have over 90 that using it on a daily basis, multiple times a week. We had over 50% of the respondents express safety concern, but over 50% had some form of concern about that corridor. The top 3 safety concerns were lack of sidewalks, congestion, very important to the residents. 141st and 151st intersection are also considered very problematic for the respondents to this survey. Majority currently do not walk along Elwood corridor, and over 3.44% preferred a shared use path. Next slide, please. We had 44%, over 44% say they preferred a 3-lane. We had 23% say 5 lanes, and we had 19. So majority of the respondents were leaning more towards the 3 lanes. Next in your preference, and we had 82% their decision. We had 60 points for access, and then 25% talked about neighborhood compatibility. Next slide, please. How come over 34% had some sort of traffic impact? So that's where communication comes in, put in the right signs, and given the foregoing, staff is making a recommendation of a three-lane roadway configuration, and the key factors to this decision is the traffic analysis results showing that we saw the majority of the respondents leaned more towards the 3 lanes, with the next highest being a 5-lane configuration. We had right-of-way constraints. The wider we go with the more likely you get into existing utilities, as well as the cost of the construction of the 141st intersection. And we're going to be applying for grant funding in phases as the council approves it. Having a 5-lane, the cost is also a consideration in our recommendation. So based on the foregoing, staff recommends a 3-lane configuration. Just before this, I want to look back at my professionals and see if there is anything they might tag team with me in responding to some of the questions.
I've got a few things, if you don't mind. A little bit of an issue with, because you say, yes, 3 lanes is 44.25, but 5 lanes was the next one. And if you took away the option of 5 lanes, I guarantee the people that said 5 lanes would say 4, which makes them dead even on that data, based on that. So that's just statistical analysis in mind. But and also the 4 lane, and looking at the cost of only $2 million more, I think the opportunity cost now to grab a 4. Now you're looking at 10, 12, however many $1 million more at that point to expand it to 4 lanes. We could do it. Those 5 lanes aren't going to choose 3 lanes. If they wanted 5, they're not going to be happy with 3. Is basically a good opportunity to grab the 4 lanes now for just a slight increase in cost right now versus maybe about 2 million.
2 million, about 2 million and 85,000.
Not including right away.
Right, and I understand that. There is going to be a little bit more expense to acquire a little more right away. I understand that.
Right away and utilities, okay,
Yeah.
it doesn't include
Yeah, I
those
understand
figures.
And the discussion between the 4 lane and having a 3 or 5 lane is safer to have a 3 or 5 lane than a 4 lane because people are stopping out of the way and turn. If you have people crossing the road or bikes crossing the road, especially at 146 going to school, they have, I've seen this one come, or this biker come through, that was very well laid out, and and then if you look at lines that have to be moved and everything, and it was shown, because I wanted the 5 lane. When you get to that expansion of it, how much more you're gonna have to do, but in 25, 50 years, the 3 lane is still gonna be okay.
Was that?
We would need to,
Some of them would have to, but the 2 big poles that are the transit ones.
Lower connections to the neighborhoods. You can't put them underneath the transmission lines. You would have parking. There's also rule those out of the way and still provide that access. Your drainage is also going to have to go underground. We would cover that up, where your multi-use pads and whatnot would be on top of it. A lot of utilities, fiber optics, we have a lot of utilities in that corridor. Sewer, that, as you can
if
do.
you don't mind as well, and
Sir.
just
Yes, sir.
comment online if you would, because I've noticed we've got a few online. I want to make sure they can hear you. I know, going back to this conversation of 3, 4, and 5, there was a significant conversation also in the meeting, if I remember correctly, about the number of intersections.
Miles, and that's a lot. That's a lot of interaction, turning movements. There's 18 on the, if I say this right, 18. So you'd have to manage those driveways because they do go into your respective neighborhoods and property owners and business. That turning movement for the school and the fire department coming in and out. There's a lot of activity at that location as a concern.
Wait, hold on just a second.
Yes, ma'am.
Any other questions?
Mayor, if I may, just one more comment. There is no wrong answer. And that's really why we went through this process of thinking, it's a great question. That's exactly why we did what we did. Those findings that we brought forward, whether it's right-of-way costs, utilities. Utilities is a major issue with the transmission on one side, the distribution on the other. And then future in a 25-year horizon is pretty outstanding in our world, in the transportation world. I spent 17 years as fellow work director in Norman and for 25 years. So don't let the C and D get too much credit. But C is outstanding from a standpoint.
Maybe David's answer. How long are we expecting this roadway to last? And what's the lifetime of a road that?
The planning timeline is 25 years. Then again, the lifespan of your pavement, periodic rehabilitation is one of them that helps to extend, or at least help you get to the life cycle of your pavement. And there are other things that we can do to help extend the life cycle. Crack sealing, those things help you get to the design life of your pavement. So our planning period is 25 years. With bridges, you see 50 plus years, but with roadways,
As we look at the three options, obviously our recommendation is the 3-lane, but if I want to rank those, that's 3, then talked about.
Right.
It's 4, because of the hidden, you can lose track of that far outside lane in those turning
And
lanes.
my preference was 5 as well, but I was looking at the cost to go from the 3 to the 5, I think like $8 million.
Mhm.
Basically.
We understand,
But I understand what
That
you're
could be
saying.
extremely high if we have to go get right of way and move houses.
yeah, the more you go up, the more cost you have. Hey, let's make sure we're doing it right as we walk through the process. It's just based on where we're at in that minimum level of service with a C, we believe that 3-lane gets us where we need to be for the next 25. We know there are issues, but we're already seeing D, E, and F along that corridor right better than that. I mean, there's significant. You got to kind of take it out of your head about school and see it's just barely getting. We think that's actually a pretty good piece from a planning standpoint.
Okay.
So that's, now that's why we're here, because council may have different thoughts than we do, and so that's why.
These projections end up low, and 15 years from now, we're looking at this going, hey, this isn't working,
There's always a chance that the long-term growth process changes slightly than what we anticipated it would, and that may change our configuration. So there is a chance.
Us, if that goes in,
Correct.
that could add a whole new.
Yes, it adds a wrinkle to the conversation, definitely.
So, any other questions of these gentlemen, David or his associates with him tonight, counselors?
The team has done an amazing job of getting this ready to this point. I have every confidence that they'll bring.
Thank you. Thank you for that.
No pressure.
Thank you. We're ready. Yes, sir.
Item of the Elwood Avenue project between 151st Street and 137th Street. Do we have?
The lane configuration of the Elwood Avenue project between 151st Street and 137th Street per the.
Mayor Calvert,
Yes.
Counselor Brooks,
Yes.
Counselor Fox,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Lund.
Yes.
And it does pass. Moving on to item 4, discussion of adding a new section labeled Section 9, Citizen Participation Guidelines and Rules of Decorum.
Continue to look at all of our ordinances and the pieces that we feel we need best to continue to proceed in an orderly manner. One of these that came up, instances in today's world where we're starting to see more and more disruption during public comment periods for meetings. Thankfully, we have not experienced any of those issues here. By and large, we have not really seen anything significant come from this. But in conversations with our city attorney, as well as lines in place to protect the city and protect the council in the long run from a more, from a group that likes to be a little more aggressive in the process as they move forward. And so this is a draft through the ordinance as it sits in its draft format. It divides pieces out based on, it sets some goals. So first, let me just say it this way. It doesn't change anything about how we currently fill out paperwork and what it's applied for. So to the clerk prior to the start of the meeting, And then those are presented to the mayor as we get started so that you have a copy of those records here. Just the same on a public hearing. We do not require anybody to sign up in this ordinance for public hearings, right? And so we've divided, this ordinance does not require public comment on special meetings, only on regular meetings. The other piece that is in here is then comments on agenda items themselves. So that is delineated and how that's laid out. And then the public hearings, we have just from a standpoint that we're not requiring. Let me walk through a couple of pieces real quick. One of the things that's in here is the process about timing. How long do people have to be able to ordinance? It sets 3 minutes as the maximum time for the public comment period. Now, this would be the period, the comments when there is nothing on the agenda about the item. Somebody just wants to come in and talk about an issue that they have, right? So that is set at 3 minutes. Our ordinance that we had tonight about flags, something along those lines, we have set that at 5 minutes. Agenda items, you're going to be discussing a little more in depth. You want to walk through, we felt it was more. And so, but we did differentiate between those here. It takes a little more work to track that. So many of them just limit it across the board. Public gets so many minutes per person, no matter what it is. We ask them, they can do that. We ask them, please bring copies. It's not a requirement. If they don't show up with just one copy, then we'll work through that. On the use of electronic pieces, we don't want them bringing in presentations at the last minute, PowerPoint, so we discourage those pieces as part of what we do. And then it makes our, whoever our police officer here that is that night is the sergeant at arms, thank you, Deputy Chief, that if an incident occurs that we need to deal with that, officers can act as a sergeant of arms to help resolve that issue as needed. So with that, I know there's a whole lot here, but I wanted to give some time, just a broad overview, and then give some time for comment. Whatever that may look like tonight. And so I would open it, Mayor, back to the council and let you have whatever comments or options the council may have.
Thank you very much. With that discussion, do we have questions of David or even our attorneys here tonight?
Section 1B,
Yes.
special meetings. A mayor or any
Three.
three council.
Yes.
Doesn't that go against our open meetings thing that should say 2?
This is state law.
And this is actually because in section 1-7-6, I think, are already in the code.
The one change, and I'm glad you pointed that out, the one change in here is under A, is really where that change comes into place. Currently in our code, happening. Some months it is, some months, like this month, we have one meeting, which places us in violation of our city code. So we're cleaning that law on that process that they will fall on Mondays unless there's a holiday. So we limited it, but we don't say specifically that it's set by council annually as you pick your meeting schedule, which is what we do. That's our current practice. But our policy or our ordinance currently says the first and third Mondays of every month at 6 p.m. I think is what it says in there, 6 or 6:30. And so we're not in compliance tonight, for example. The meeting starts by ordinance at 7 o'clock, and we have scheduled those at 6 o'clock for years. And so it's been that way for a long, long time now. But it's, as I said, it's one of those pieces that we wanted to clean up language, one, because it's not the current practice, so we need to clean it up. We tried to make it a little more generic, so if council comes back and says 4 meetings a month, you have the ability to do that by setting those meetings annually as part of your plan, and it won't require us to change code every time we do that, or if we decide to change times for regularly scheduled meetings.
Well, but back to my, and we're not, that would make it a quorum.
Well, that's why it's a special meeting. We call it a special meeting.
It's,
But for
Well-
3 to call that.
yeah, it's what we did was copy the language out of the state law.
There's open
3 of
meetings.
us talking about a special meeting.
Well, it doesn't say 3 of you have talked about it, it says 3 of you call it. But I understand what
How do
you
we call that if we don't, if we're not talking, hey, Tim, we need to have a meeting about this.
Yeah,
Oh, well, let's call
We're
Chris.
not, we haven't changed it yet, and I'm not arguing about that point. I'm just saying that's the way state law is. That's the way we took it, and that's why it's there. So if you want to change it, that's That can be done, that's easy, that's why the discussion is.
Technically, by state law, the only time three councilors could come together and speak would be to call a special meeting. I said, so, from what I'm reading, the only time three councilors could speak without violating the Open Meetings Act is to call a special meeting. But if we spoke about anything else, then we'd be in violation of that.
Yeah, because the state law, my assumption is, from reading it, the state law says it's, since it currently says, even though it is different in the Open Meeting Act. I don't think it's a big deal one way or the other. If we want to make a change to something else, we can.
Point that council members are making, that by requiring three members to call a special meeting, you're putting them in a position where they almost inevitably have to discuss, well, a special meeting, why we need a special meeting. And so I get it, but like David, I think that this is consistent with state law. It is the scheduling of a meeting for the purpose of discussing public business. So with all that said, if you're uncomfortable with it,
Fine, just as long as he's preparing to defend us in case somebody slaps a lawsuit on us.
Well,
And I wonder, the majority.
It could be.
Yeah,
I mean,
and that very well may be, because
in
there
our
are some that
case,
have large.
We couldn't do that necessarily.
So, well, and the only time I could maybe see this coming into effect is if we call a meeting to discuss your job. I'm not calling, so we would have to call it as a council, you know what I'm saying?
Right. It was specifically set in place, technically the mayor calls special meetings, period, not the city manager. But, it's a fine line as you walk through that, but it was specifically set up for that kind of scenario where absolutely that was set for.
And I know of one instance, but only one, in a neighboring city where that would have come into play. And it would have,
rare.
yeah, it's rare.
But it does happen.
Or we could make it, however you all want to make it, it makes me no difference.
But like Chris said, what if it's the mayor that doesn't?
Well, you
Doesn't
say
want
mayor
to.
and or two council members.
Yeah.
I think you just change it from any 3 to any 2 council members if you want to make a
I
change.
would feel
Yeah,
more
we could do
comfortable with
that.
that.
But even if we leave it as it is tonight.
Okay.
Right, not with the Open Meeting Act, I don't believe it is.
So, I guess the question that becomes is if you have in a future council, if you have a date when a special meeting is called, do you want to have 3 people be in agreement?
Yeah, I think it's a council, it's a point that staff can't make those kinds of calls.
Right, I'm throwing, I don't think this city council is a problem, but who knows what happens in the future,
I mean, well, being here with special meetings, try and hire a city manager.
Well,
So it was obvious we needed to have more meetings and they run really long because we were interviewing. So,
you typically get a lot in that kind of process.
right,
Yes.
we haven't had,
I know we had one to up the,
We had some special meetings during COVID.
Yeah.
We see special meetings from trust authorities, because we need to take care of a specific business. For us to call specials for city
but
council,
even
we
that
don't do it real
special
often.
is usually ran on a city council night.
Normally those
so-
are ran on city council nights. We don't, like I said, it's not been an issue one way or the other for us in quite a while. I don't have a problem if we want to make the change, it's just kind of where the group would like to go on that.
The way it is.
leaving it as 3.
I think I am too. Is there any more questions or any more comments, counselors?
I did have one, and now with all this,
Okay.
we look over and we kind of try to.
I like
remember
our
what's-
time limits though on the public.
That was-
Oh,
comment.
that was my
And
question,
the-
thank you,
and the 5 minutes,
So-
if it's on an actual thing, but how about when they're coming to?
On a public hearing, so if we open it up for the public hearing, we do not currently, correct me Leslie if we walk through this, we do not currently have a limit on public hearings. The thought process internally is I don't want to come in as a public hearing and limit people in that piece. Hearings, what that rule is. But I wasn't comfortable setting a limit as a recommendation to the council at this point.
I'm not either, because if you follow some of the other city councils in other cities, when they have issues that are of utmost importance,
We reached our 5-minute time limit. We need to move on before the sergeant at arms starts cuffing and stuffing us.
Let me ask one more question.
Yes, sir.
Let's say that we have somebody speak for their 5 minutes on an agenda item. And something true, are we allowed to call them back up to answer that question, or are they done? Am I not allowed to ask that question of them?
Under the public comment period, so the first piece of the meeting when items are not on the agenda, and then how do we put that? Council members shall not respond to or comment or remarks made during public comment period.
But I'm talking about an agenda item.
So an agenda item itself,
They've used their 5 minutes, but now I have a question that I want to ask them based on something they've said.
right, so the council, it listed in here, the council may ask questions of the speaker for the purpose of clarification, but shall not enter into a debate asking questions of the speaker until the conclusion of their presentation. We want them to get their full
So they get
time.
their time, and then I'm.
Then at the end of that, if there are questions, you need clarification on the comment they made. The one thing I will point out is, the way this is worded, once they speak, and assuming there are no questions from the council, and they sit back down, they're done. There is no option for them to come back up later and readdress the council or to ask a question. Even if they've abdicated some portion of that, they only spoke for 3 of the 5. Once you have finished with them and they have gone, a re-questioning, so to speak. I've got questions for something else that came up. Can I come back up and ask a question? That's not contemplated here in this
With an agenda item or no agenda?
either.
Just asking them
They
a
can, right, there's really no, they can ask questions and you can answer them, but that's part of their 5 minutes in that scenario. Your questions at the end of it are not part of their 5 minutes.
Okay.
So if we ask them a question,
It needs to be after they have completed all of their statements.
So once they sit down, I can't ask them a question after that.
That is not the way this is currently written.
Okay, just want to make sure.
We have not limited their topics, so they have 3 minutes to speak about as many topics as they want. 1 or 30, we don't care, they've got 3 minutes to talk about it when they sign up for that. So if somebody wanted to come in and talk on agenda items 5, 7, and 15, they can come up all 3 times and talk and get 5 minutes each time, and they are limited to that specific agenda
I can't
item.
talk about 15 while they're talking about 5.
Correct.
He's ready, he's done.
Let's see here. 4, discussion of a draft ordinance amending Title I, Chapter 7, Section 6, meetings, and adding a new section labeled Section 9, Citizen Participation Guidelines and Rules of Decorum. David has answered all of our questions. I'm going to make a motion that we go ahead.
No motion. It was just-
Yeah, this is just a public,
No
just a
motion.
discussion piece only tonight, so.
Okay,
Right.
I'm sorry, I missed that, thank you. 3 candidates to fill a 3-year term to the Oklahoma Municipal Assurance Group Board of Trustees, and David will speak to us on that.
Mayor and Council, the OMAG group is, we are a member, they have acts as a trust authority, and so we have the ability to OMAG. This year there are 3 positions up, all 3 incumbents, which is Justin Battles, who is the assistant manager at Mustang, Tim Lyons, city manager at Midwest City, and Pam Polk, city manager in Durant. All 3 incumbents, we just would vote for the 3 incumbents to continue in their seat. There are others. You have in your packet a quick synopsis of biographical sketches. OMAG put this information out. We just passed it through to you. So if you're interested in looking at any of the others there this evening, you have those. So with that, staff recommends Justin Battles.
Okay, thank you for that, David. Any questions of David, councilors? I would make the motion that we continue with the 3 that have already been serving in office, Justin Battles, Tim Lyon, and Pam Polk. And do we have a second, please?
I'll second.
We have a motion, we have a second.
Yes.
Counselor Box?
Yes.
And it does pass. Moving on to item number 6, discussion and possible action to approve Ed Tillison.
Mayor and Council, this year, normally our benefit process runs fairly smoothly and quickly as we work our way through. This 0.5% from our current provider. And so we took these out to shop the Oakwood market, look at other options. And so in meeting with our Employee Benefits Committee, for those that may not remember, or this is the first time on this particular item, offer input and to vote and make a recommendation on what they would like to see. I retain the right to override their recommendation, or at least other than what they want. They have come up with what we were going to agree with, what we think is a good piece, and we've been following their recommendations. For this year, let me cover first a couple of but the vision and life insurances, which we do pay portions of, all of those had no changes in cost, and we're recommending that those move forward as they are.
Vision, and what was the other one?
Vision, life, and then Teladoc, which is a virtual doctor's piece. Employees can opt in and pay for that insurance on their own. We have about 4 this year. We're dental and our health insurance. Dental, Guardian Dental proposed an 11% increase. Blue Cross Blue Shield came back with a 5.2% increase. And so the committee is recommending we move to Blue Cross Blue Shield or dental through. And so after we shopped the plan, community care dropped from 28.5% to 13% increase. But our Premier, who's our benefit consultants, brokers in this, brought us we looked at, while it lowered some, we couldn't get the GAP plan to move forward with that because we offset portion of the deductible through GAP. And we couldn't make that process work and actually make it cheaper than leaving it at the 13%. So we dropped community care with changes to it from the list. Then we looked at a couple different options from Blue Cross Blue Shield. One of those trying to make it work, or Blue Cross Blue Shield with what's called the difference card. And so it is a partially self-funded process. We would be funding the deductible portion with stop loss on it. So we know that there's a max test in the past. Hey, we may need to start looking at self-funding to try to lower costs. Unfortunately, with our group size, that's been difficult to do. It's just hard to do that with a group of our size. We are still moving in that. It would be a debit style card that goes to the employee and their family that would pay $5,600 of the $6,600 deductible. Their money would come out first. The difference card money would come out first in that process, meaning the employee is not out any, they would have the $1,000 still to go in the event they needed it. So our current piece means you're paying your deductible up front, then GAP kicks in and pays the rest of that deductible. This switches that, so the employee is not out any money in the front end. The Blue Cross Blue Shield also, the plan that we're looking at, also has no copay because it's a PPO style plan that instead of the HMO, there is no, you're just paying the entirety of the bill when you get that bill. So you go to the doctor, they submit a bill, you take your debit card, you pay for that bill online or through whatever other process that you want to make that payment at. There is no secondary copay to that process. There's a couple benefits. Let me know. We'll walk through that because it can get a little convoluted. It's so different than what we've ever done that wrapping your head around it can be a little different. And we had a lot of conversations as staff and as the committee both trying to make sure we understood it well. But I think there are some benefits to this. One is what we are seeing is, and we're seeing high claims the past few years because we're not really, we're just using it without thinking about what it is and what the cost is back to the city, which is typical for insurance costs, right? I don't worry about how much this is costing. I've got an insurance, get employees to start to think about what that cost actually is. How much of that cost is the city bearing? How much do they need to bear? Are there better alternatives? Or can I go to a different, MRI place to get an MRI and get it cheaper? Can I go get a drug cheaper in another location? Whatever that looks like, to help them truly understand what those costs are. We've been able to thankfully stop some of that. For example, this year we didn't see as much emergency care use as we have seen in the past. More employees went to urgent care instead of emergency room, right? That's a good option for families, especially for simple things. I've got a cold or a sinus infection, I need some money or need some medicine to help me with that process. Most doctors don't necessarily need to see you for a sinus infection. You can call it in, they can look at you, they can talk to you on video chat, and I'm not out any money. It doesn't hit our insurance at all in those cases. So that's what I'm talking about education. How do we work through that process to control that cost in the long term and allows employees to see that? But while it is expensive to start, it's $533,000 so odd change. in just that one portion of it, we would get that, any amount not used, we get back. End up using that, you get it back at the end of the day. So based on last year, or this current year's claims, where they ended as of the end of December, right, because this is an annual, well, it's an annual piece, deductibles run January through December, even though we're on a fiscal year basis. If we would only have needed 290,000 of that to process claims. The remainder of that would have come back to the city. And so that's where we believe we will see savings over time, is on that side of that cost, right?
So what does the employee see as savings?
The employee will see, they're not really seeing much in the way of savings at all from the other plan, except for the potential. Well, out of pocket, it's $1,250 or $1,750 total. If you truly get to true out of pocket costs with your your copay for prescriptions, deductible, and if you go inpatient or not. Inpatient pays all of your deductible. Everything else is $500 deductible, and then another $1,250 out of pocket total. So they could either be $1,250 or $1,750 total out of pocket under our current plan. This new plan, individual, not family, that you do today with copays and with the $500 deductible that you have to pay first. An employee wouldn't see any cost up until the $5,600 on the card is gone. Then the next $1,000 they would be responsible for. So they have the potential to save $250 to $750 in total out-of-pocket costs, or all $1,750. Spend $5,600 or less, they don't have any deductible cost for the year. They're free and clear, zero payment out of pocket.
So it's a win-win.
I think it's a win-win for them. It is. Funding it and starting it is a little more expensive than the 13%. The way we would see that come back at the end of the day on the savings side, it makes it, based on last year's costs, it makes it cheaper for us over the course of the year. So there is a upfront costing to this, but there is the potential, significant potential for savings in the back end with that education, that we would actually be lower at the end of the day than community care.
So 5,600 and the next 1,000 is there's what happens after that.
They have met their total out of pocket except for certain prescriptions. The card would still cover 80% of the prescription costs. They would be responsible for the 20% beyond that. Okay. So that's out of the, once they've met that 1,000, that's kind of where they're at for an individual level.
Okay.
Right. So it is, what was good for us is that even after you met your $1,000 deductible. So, but it's, they're on their own at that point. It's outside of our plan. They just present their card. It discounts the 80%. They have the ability to use coupons. You've got still, $5,000 on your card that you can spend, but you walk in with a prescription that they want to charge you $500 for. If there's a discount coupon for that, you can apply it and reduce that back out on the front end, which we don't have the capability to do today.
I'm talking medical. I mean, let's say
Medical
we have
costs.
an employee that has been health issues, and I'm sure he's way above that.
So not prescriptions, medical.
Right, medical.
Once you meet that 6,600, that is total out-of-pocket cost, and they cover the rest. Blue Cross Blue Shield covers 100% of that cost at that point, because we're a 100% co-insurance plan, not an 80-20 or a 70-30 split, which would your total out-of-pocket maximum. You have no other costs, except in this case for prescriptions potentially. That's the only other thing that comes into play.
The second question is flexible spending card, but I've had flexible spending in the past where you can hear like, oh my gosh, I got all this money, I'm gonna go spend it. If an employee says, hey man, I've still got, so much money on my card, let me go to the doctor here, at the end of the year. Do you see that potential happening to where we don't get as much money back as we thought we might because of something like that?
It's always a possibility. But I think it would be more some sense of, I've got to spend this money, right? You're correct. When FSA is, I don't get any of that money back, and so I'm trying to use it, right? And so I want to make sure I do that. This card, and that's part of the education that we've got to do and do a good job of, is to say, every dollar of new equipment, whether that's in the form of raises, whether that's in the form of whatever, every dollar that you can save on your medical costs helps us continue to fund and build and grow for the future. And so we've got to make sure we do a good job of educating our employees on how to do that. There are strategies for that. There are pieces that you can look at. And so those are what we're working with our broker group about. as well as in-house HR. Debbie and her team are looking into those options and how do we begin to educate pieces throughout the year that would physically, or would talk specifically about this type of deal, especially this first year. So I have 33, and I didn't even catch this until today. The cost comparison, for whatever reason, did not show up in the staff report. And I didn't bring that in with me from my office because I didn't see that was here that way. I'll see if I can pull it up here in a moment, but that 533,214, I think is what it is. The fund balance. So instead of budgeting for that this year one, we're going to seed that self-funding portion from fund balance for year one. Right, so you see that under item 3 if you were looking at that. It is general fund would have 365,440. Utility Services Authority would have 86,540. Industrial Authority 11,628, and the Public Safety Personnel Account Fund would have 74,392. Those would be the fund balance draws. Whether that continues into year 2 or beyond is a council consideration that we'll talk about in budget in future years. But our hope is we start to see enough savings that there's not significant increases in that. We can start to use some savings. So with that, obviously I'll answer any other questions that the council has, but our recommended action item tonight is to approve the benefits package as recommended by the Employee Benefit Committee. This was their recommendation, which is to move with the health to the Blue Cross Blue Shield with difference card with Beam, Guardian Life, and employee. The Teladoc is an employee voluntary plan. The city doesn't have any cost in
I
it.
do have one more question
Yes,
about
sir.
this. What happens if, obviously, we're adding 4 new positions for the water waste treatment plant next year, and then what happens if an employee comes mid-year? Do they get the full 5,600? How does that?
But their deductible is $6,600 a year, whether you start January 1 or whether you start, November 30th, right? It's going to be however that works. So once you get past those 30 days, you go on our insurance. It's the standard deductible. I don't know that I can answer completely that question, whether we're going to prorate some portion of the card up front. But at the end of the day, it really won't.
5,600 for everybody, every
Monthly, based on, we're going to fund it and move it into a budget item as a holding place. But they will bill us monthly for that amount based on our employee count that particular month.
Okay.
So,
I just didn't want us to get into a portion
yeah,
where we're
my
not.
assumption is some of that will balance out as you go through the year. You have employees come and go, and so I don't think it's going to be a massive issue for us. We'll continue to monitor, see that becoming an issue for us.
Well, if you yourself go somewhere else and you met a deductible on your current employment, and you go to another place and get employed, you get insurance, you still have that deductible.
You still have to start over, yes.
So I think it
Yeah,
comes out
and
in the
it's,
wash.
right, and so if, for example, if I were to leave here, I wouldn't get to take my difference card with me and
No.
use it at the place. Out, it comes back to the city, however that works moving
I
forward.
was just thinking of our budget. I mean, you said the 533, but if we add new employees, well, now it's not 533. It's
Right, it potentially changes on a month-to-month basis as we go, but the reality is it washes itself out pretty much, and we know kind of where that maximum is. Of our 120 employees, we've got 105 currently on the city insurance. The others have alternative insurances at other places, so we know that if somebody leaves, there are a few minor changes that could come into play. But we see that even to a certain extent today. We know that with our insurance premiums, they adjust based on, because they're all based on rating, right? Ages and what they choose. So where somebody may have left that had single coverage, they may come back with family coverage, which is a lot more expensive to us. So far, we've been able to manage those kinds of costs, and I anticipate that will stay the same here.
I'll be interested to see what they think after your.
I am too. I am too.
Second. Hearing none, the item is discussion and possible action to approve, amend, or deny the fiscal year 26-27 employee benefits package. I will go ahead and make the motion that we approve that as recommended by the Employee Benefits Committee. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and we have a second. Would you please call the roll?
Counselor Fox,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Lund,
Yes,
Mayor Calvert,
Yes.
Counselor Brooks.
Receiving public comments, if any, on the proposed fiscal year 26-27 annual budget. Josh Brandon, our finance director, will speak to us, but before he does that, I would like to open the public hearing at 7:32.
I think David just covered one of the more complex pieces of the budget that's currently built in, but I will hit the highlights of everything that remains. So on slide 2, just kind of a recap of where we are in the process. We've been working for a couple months now internally on the budget pieces and what we're assuming. Tonight, obviously, we're holding a public hearing, getting the proposal out to you. And then over the next 3 weeks, really, we're going to be fine tuning. We welcome any questions, feedback, responses over that time. And it's our goal to bring back budget in the June 1st meeting for vote on whether to adopt or not. Per state law, we have all the way up through. Quick look on page 3 of your handout. Just kind of where we are right now and where we anticipate ending this fiscal year. So we've got the 10 funds of the city and the trust authorities listed here. You can see historical fund balances. I'll highlight a few things before we move on from this slide. The main piece being there on line 1 is in the last 2 years in particular, we've had transfers just as we saw last year. So we transferred $4.4 million 2 years ago to that fund and over $1.5 this year, primarily this year for grant matches. And so you'll see kind of a corresponding increase in the capital improvement fund, which is 2 from the bottom, with necessarily operating losses. It's more just the transfer of these one-time named projects. Behind last year, use tax continues to remain up. We're up 10% right now on use tax. But really, when you look at budget versus where we project to end the year on fund balances, really the story, knowing that sales tax has been doing what it is, we've really managed the expense side of the part we can control more. And so we've really reduced certain expenditures within departments, and we fully expect that all 3 of the main operating funds, the general fund, GUSA and GIA, will end the year with surplus this year, even with that decrease in sales tax that we've seen. Switching over into looking at next year, some of the assumptions on both the revenue side and then the expense side. On revenues, again, we approach this conservatively. When we're looking at sales tax, our budget this year is up 10%, where we're budgeting in 5% there. GUSA, we've already baked in the new rate structure that was passed in last month's meeting that will go into effect in July. We're not assuming any volumetric increase or any substantial increase to the consumption necessarily. We're not budgeting those in the budget. If they're unknown, we just budget those as they come. They'll come in the form of the budget amendments. Same thing with infrequent revenues, things that are impossible to predict, things like donations, insurance reimbursements for auto claims or other claims. Those type things we'll bring to you throughout the year to budget as we receive those funds, should they happen. On the expense side, as Councilman noted before, the one change to positions that we're proposing is adding 4 full-time positions to our sewer operations division. We currently have 2 in that division now, and so that includes both working at the plant and on lift stations and sewer lines throughout town. And so we're proposing to add 4 positions plus the operational costs and the debt service needed to operate that new plant that's coming on board. A contract in place already for the police union, so that's a known piece on the police side, so that is baked into the budget for next year. We are proposing a 3% raise for the non-union employees. We've always tried to do something. It doesn't necessarily mirror what's happening on the union side, but our goal is to incorporate some amount of a raise for the non-union staff. The next piece is what David mentions. That is reflected in the numbers tonight. So this would be the shift from community care to Blue Cross Blue Shield, and then pre-funding that first year on the difference card for those. 3 roles on the general fund side. This is in streets and parks. Several years back, I don't have the exact year in front of me, but we had included 3 seasonal
part-time park positions. We have found those very difficult to hire and keep filled. Last summer, we filled none of them. The year before, we filled one of the three. So we're proposing to reduce those roles and reallocate those dollars for other purposes. We've done the same with, we don't have a list in front of you at this time, but capital expenditures, our goal, like in previous years, is to fund from the excess that we see this year. By the time we come back in June, we'll get one more sales tax number. We'll have a little more data. We'll have a good idea of where we're ending the year. It's not going to be significantly up in the general fund or significantly up in the GUSA fund based off the number of capital requests that we've seen. So we've certainly already started to prioritize those requests and see, are we able to fund 200,000? Are we able to fund 350,000? So we kind of got our eye on that, but our goal is to next year. Slide number 6 there just reiterates the current position count by department. Like I said, every department remains the same, but for water and sewer goes from 12 total. That counts water side as well, water distribution. So the sewer side is really only 2, and it's moving to 6 total positions. So water and sewer combined would have 16 positions, and then the reduction on the part-time column. Slide 7 shows the anticipated debt service. The bulk of that is sitting in Fund 51, one of the Move Glenpool Forward funds for public safety capital pieces. We've got a lot of different overlapping leases for police cars and fire vehicles. We have one lease dropping off this current year that is finished, and we're proposing to replace that with another batch now. Actually, that might be 6. I'm trying to read the fine print. I think that is 6. I'll double check that. I don't remember if it's 5 or 6. I know the cost was more than this year's batch, but I will double check that. We are also still in talks developing a plan on we need a few more internal discussions just to finalize whether we want to incorporate that into Fund 51 to start that process. We have had preliminary discussions with the maker and their financing bank, so we're kind of weighing options right now. And then down in the GUSA fund, we will have the new loan come on board once we officially close out that project. So we anticipate increased debt service beginning in part in FY 26-27. And slide 8 is got the total budget for all the city funds at the fund and the department level. On this particular piece, total revenue of just over 36 million, total expenses just over 35. We do currently show this thrown around the idea in our department whether just to operate that within each of the 4 funds that have city personnel or whether to have that as its own fund. So we're kind of still working through that internally, but for the sake of this document, I've shown it as its own fund. And then on page 9, we would have the proposed fund balances of what they would end up based off the proposed budget as it currently stands. So again, one thing I didn't mention on the front end when we looked at fund balances would just be, we continue to operate with healthy fund balances. And another item we plan on bringing, hopefully in June, is a fund balance reserve policy, just kind of adding a little more structure on how and when that type funding can be used, or portions of that funding. But during this last 1 to 2 year period, the ARPA fund, I'm just calling your attention to just because it looks weird on paper, is we fully anticipate we will have spent down that 44 million in about the next 2 months, I would estimate. That fund will still have activity in the next fiscal year, but it will, for the sake of budgeting, be a wash. So as we make a loan draw from OWRB, we're using it to pay invoices. So there's not really any balance per se left at the end of the day. It's just going to be a lot of pass-throughs during that year as we finish out that project with loan draws through OWRB. I ran through a lot. I'm certainly open and willing to answer questions and hear feedback. We encourage you also just to continue to provide our department or David questions or concerns you have over the next 3 weeks as we seek to finalize it and bring you something back on June 1st.
On page 5, you had said what the surplus amount is this year yet.
In the general fund, it's going to be in the probably $200,000 to $400,000 range. I mean, it's fund specific in how we budget, so it's not going to be, in terms of the amount of capital requests, it's not very much, I would say. In GUSA fund, we're looking at possibly upwards of 150 to 200,000. Nothing significant if you're receiving 400, 500, 600,000 or $1 million.
Executive team, the thought process overwhelmingly from those was, while everybody has significant needs they want from a capital standpoint, it was more important to try to find a way to do some raises for employees. And they were willing to forego some capital for a year if that's what it took to get to that spot. So we prioritized 3% for the employee increase for non-union increases, knowing that it was going to reduce the amount of capital that we had to spend this year, at least from a budgetary standpoint, revenue standpoint.
What, this is the first time I've seen this, I'm just curious, because on page 7, under general fund, DOT note 51880.
Those were notes that were put in. You can see the first one from 1987, put in a long time ago.
That's what I'm trying to, like,
so we have-
what that's from.
This is on the debt service page. So the first 2 items on the debt service page are both Department of Transportation, basically payment plans. We had to do improvements to our roadways over time. And, one of those falls off, the 87 note falls off in 28, thankfully. So we're coming up on the end of the year for a few of these, or end of time frame.
So those were,
for a couple of these.
what, 40-year notes, basically?
Yeah.
Wow.
They're long-term notes
Okay.
through DOT.
Okay.
Neither were for, as you can tell, neither were for large amounts of money. Original, 56,000 and 63,000. So
Well, back then that was large.
it may have been large. I wish it was easier to do that today with the 11 million we're talking about for Elwood.
And there's the one under 90.
It says that on the right, man.
Yeah.
I just missed it somewhere. I see it now. Thank you.
Josh, on page 9, under self-insurance, what's the 2,500 there for? That, I mean, obviously I know what the self-insurance fund is now.
I'll tell you what this is for. This was just a quick estimate on, since we're not paying it all in month 1, it's staggered throughout the year. It's not a fine-tune calculation at this point, but
Okay.
that was our methodology.
Okay.
So, Mayor and Council, the goal is, as we've done in years past, is provide the data, give you a chance to start looking through it, begin to ask questions over the next several weeks. If you would like to have a meeting with me or with Josh and I, the Greater Finance team, we can bring in Cheryl or others as needed as well into that process to walk through and make sure we understand any questions that you may have or concerns or needs that you want to see us make sure that we get addressed in next year's budget. So that we can have those good comprehensive discussion that night of changes that we might want to see, or hopefully have it pretty close to a final version ready to go based on input that we hear from each of you over this next 3 weeks or so.
The increase to Park and Recreation Fund, what are you anticipating that?
Oh, you're looking at the total budget.
Fund, yeah, page 9, I apologize, page 9.
Josh can probably answer.
It's just solely a fact of the money that's projected to come in. We don't have any significant named project being expended from there at this point in time.
Okay.
So, I mean, some years it's continued to tick up, then sometimes we come and use a portion. I remember if we were to be awarded, if we wanted to use some of that as the matching funds.
Chris, are you talking Park and Rec Fund?
Park and Rec Fund, yes.
Yeah. So that fund
it's going up by 10,000 this year, so I just wondered, why is it, I would think mainly stable unless we're doing something to improve a park or
Well, that revenue, that's actually the revenue number. It's
revenue, okay.
So that is, that first 11,506 is the revenue that we expect to get this year in that. And that's in that particular fund, that revenue is a function of development fees. So it's always based on the amount of development we have, a portion of the permit fee gets paid into that fund for the use of parks and recreation pieces. Each year, most of our expenses for parks come out of our general fund within that streets and parks category.
I'll add one more caveat. That particular fund is only used for it's project based, so we don't have any current projects sitting in there to be funded next year. Our main,
Good point.
Any other questions, councilors? Hearing none, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing at this time at 7. Thank you, Josh.
Mayor, we didn't ask if there were any comments from the public.
Oh, okay, thank you.
I don't know if we've got much here, but we'll.
Do we have any public comments from the public here tonight?
Thank you.
Hearing none, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing. No action item here. It's
Correct.
just a public hearing for the purpose of receiving public comments. Moving on now to item number 8, discussion and possible action to enter into executive session for the purposes of discussing the employment, hiring, appointment, promotion, demotion, discipline, or resignation of David Tillison, an individual salaried employee, in accordance with 25 Oklahoma Statute 307B1, the Open Meeting Act, to wit, discussion of annual evaluation and contract provisions. Do we have a motion to reconvene into regular session?
Motion to
The rest of these or no?
There's
No,
we're because of the nature of the GUSA, our contract piece, we
I got it.
want to go ahead and
Yeah.
take care of all this now.
Yeah, do we have a motion to go into
We'll make a
executive?
motion to go into executive.
I'll second
session.
that. Would you call the roll, Leslie?
Mayor Calvert,
Yes.
Counselor Brooks,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Lunt,
Yes.
Counselor Fox.
Yes.
And we are going to executive session. What are you doing? Are you breaking out?
Yeah, I'm going to. My favorite show.
Well, that was the movie, so.
It was?
I think so. I don't know, I haven't ever seen the movie, but it looked like the movie.
Okay.
And council, there's some food in there.
She would be here.
She would be here if it wasn't for me. I was trying to get you riled up. Didn't work.
Oh, sorry. Get it back.
Help out there. Meeting day. We're gonna talk
Even at 3 o'clock, I came up to a meeting. You spell it? No, I got in there.
And then, you guys feel free to grab me some food once council gets through.
Smelling good in here.
Eat itself, smell that food all afternoon. I was like,
So-
you can't do that to me.
David, I got a question for you on level of service, CD. What was the level of service at peak periods?
For which one? For the Elwood.
If it's at CD, it'll probably be at
That whole other.
No, wait.
When you were in that.
That's a good question.
peak periods.
Okay.
Okay, because generally they say the operation.
When they were service, when I saw their eyes, I was like,
They spoke is operating at BC, right? What's it operating at peak
I
periods?
didn't want to.
AM, peak.
Yeah, so that's a good question. So how you.
That's why I said
That's what
that.
people are gonna see.
Right, I didn't get into that table. There was a threshold that they used to determine the level of peak period, and it was just basically based off the traffic volume. Right, so in 2050, we're looking
They
at,
do a division,
Right.
what they're normally done is division of the average trip if they've done,
right,
if they
Right.
did counts, do they do counts? alone?
right, they did, and we used a growth factor of 3%, 300 to 8,300. And when you look at the levels of service based on that number, that's how they determine where it falls into. So if a 4-lane, you're about 9,000 more. A 4-lane at a level of service A and B level of service A and B will be about 9,000 cars, vehicles per day, level for a 4-lane. Now with the 3-lane, if you're 8,300 vehicles per day, you're at a level of service C. So it's based on that
Overall
threshold.
leverage, but when you do the overall calculation for level of service, this is how I would attack that. I'm just sharing it. How would I attack it? So when you do a level of service on the roadway, you look at the entire, you look at how many trips throughout the day.
Right.
Just say, hey, this is how many throughout the day. And you break it down into peak periods.
Right.
AM and PM peaks, where most of your traffic is in. So it's not an average of the entire day. It now gets to, I think it's what, five.
Technical with the level of service because I had that table on there that showed the intersections, and then I had a separate table that showed lane segments rather than actually averaging it, lane segments and what the vehicles per day at those different lane segments were, and none of them put the 3-lane worse than a C. So that's based on the worst condition. The worst lane segment is still a C.
Because this is what I heard. Because what I heard him say. Okay, and this is the comparison that I had. If he was looking at turning movement surface, what you do is you look at the overall road shape, and then you look at segments, and then you look at intersections. Wherever there is an intersection, and you have a level of service in every driveway that increases, it is an impact to that number. He said it was
48 driveways. Now, the only intersection that the traffic analysis looked at was the 141st intersection. And that's where we showed the comparison between signalized versus roundabout. And for those, in 2025, you're operating fairly well. When you get into 2050, at a AM and PM time, then you're getting into the D and C level of service, and then the
and that's
roundabout.
except D at a peak period is okay.
Right.
It's when you get E and F it's just totally unacceptable.
Right.
Then it becomes what they call an environmental impact for a variety of reasons, not just traffic, but health.
So the AM section on 141st or a roundabout at 141st.
Now, the question is going to be, this is where I'm okay with that, okay, is looking at, and that's where Probst brought in, it says, hey, we need another east-west access point, wherever that goes. I believe will relieve some of the congestion on the roadways. I mean, it will. But the question is in 50, going to 2050 horizon, do they factor in any, because we're going to be looking at densification, getting more units. Most of that land right now is at a very low density.
Right.
And that's what I'm
Well, I
worried
tell you what, I was just driving the other day and I didn't even realize it. Because I'm thinking like the four lanes from my daughter's neighborhood. I'm telling you, it's scary. Understand? Turn off Sheridan between the 41st. Cars are flying by, there's not a turn lane. It makes it like,
that's something they talk about. That's something they talk about in the public meeting.
That's still your quick.
That crossing if you had a 3-lane with a center turn lane, not a lot of cars are driving in the center turn lane, so you're only really watching out for the incoming, the northbound and the southbound lane.
If you're going to have 4 lanes, you're going to have 4 lanes.
Right, you have to. And 5 with an island.
Because, you have to. Well, I'm more concerned about this is what we're going to look at in the transportation plan, is reducing the turning movements on all those properties.
Right.
Because everybody's going to want to come in and 2 access points. And when you get density over 30 units, right, you have 2 ways in and out, which creates 2 more.
And that's like the majority you were talking about.
Oh, yeah.
And the problem is, and this is what traditionally happens in county areas, is that they don't share access between properties. Okay, because it gets to this individual property. You know, cities are saying, no, it's like when we do a subdivision, we have a stub street. We make them put a sub street here because we know that they're gonna need to have a secondary access somewhere through. So you wanna have as much connections internally as possible to minimize the external ones. And that's where we're gonna have the challenges, is down the road. And that's, and you know what, the way I kinda look at it, 2050, I've been pushing up a lot of daisies, man, so I don't worry about it too much. And you know what, and I will tell you this, and I will look at that traffic guy and say, okay, if you do not look at regional analysis of this, traffic engineering is a black box, just that black box they put on the ground. And the reason why is, show me an area, and he says, well, I'm in Edmond, I'm Norman. I'm like, traffic's terrible, dude. It's terrible. It's a black box science, and the reason being is because it looks at, if you don't start looking at area-wide intersections, and you just localize on, you know, short intersections, that doesn't really quantify. And what the problem we have here is that we don't mandate, I mean, now we guys have this, we have those issues in behavior, it's just like, how far should the traffic study go? We got a 10-mile radius to look at intersections because we have to fund those off-site intersections within the capital improvement plan. You know, development will build some of it, but we have to fix it. And that's how, and the only way you can mandate funding is having a plan. Because somebody will say that, you know, this is an arbitrary funding mechanism. How did you come up with this dollars and cents for the impact?
I do agree. I think it's important.
Now this is Oklahoma. Now that I've said that, this is Oklahoma.
Like James, I mean, they have a master transportation plan. Interestingly, I downloaded it during the course of this meeting. So I agree with you that we need to have something that's comprehensive as opposed to pockets of improvements.
And that's what we've been doing, and we get stuck on this alignment issue on Broadway. Somebody made a determination, we'll put, I think we're guessing the street here. And that was fine, but we didn't put a roadway. Because the way you would do a long-term plan is to say, we need to have this roadway this way. And you do the numbers based upon your land use plan.
Would this be part of the comprehensive plan?
Yeah.
That is what a comprehensive plan is. Everybody gets stuck on just what the zoning and land use says. There's 7 or 8 different elements that you have to evaluate. The problem is cost. See, we're gonna go and densify without really looking at our circulation plan. That's where we're gonna have a challenge. They don't even want to do their frontage.
This company, first on the west side. It's like,
Do you know what I tell him? Do you want to know what I would tell him? You bought that piece of property. Okay, real cheap. And you didn't look at it, and it's a problem. Just like everyone else has. And we're not gonna spend dollars fixing it.
Yeah, he's not fine 5 acres. He said he's talking to the one across the street. Setbacks or something.
Setbacks, what do you think it's been unused for? What do you think it's been vacant? Maybe they say, oh, I found a piece. It's like, no, dude, this has been around, it's been platted 15 years ago, when nobody did it. It's not very good. They work the sections of it. There's floodplain in the back, there's a lot of different things. Until we go and fix Coal Creek, until that gets channelized, all the land uses, all the property adjacent, and one day it will, but that's a significant project, and that will get done when all the other land's been developed. That's how it happens. The value of that property will just again. Fence building. What does that do for us, man?
Yeah, we sell fences. We don't sell many sales.
We're gonna look at a lumber yard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're growing, it's just they're-
This is what I would look at it when because I dealt with them initially. And didn't want to pay, because they were all this kind of stuff. You get all the website. Perfect spot for you. Perfect spot for you. And you start looking at, okay, moving into something else. You can't afford it. You can't afford it where he wants to put this. You can't afford it. And think about this, man. You drive by with, oh, there's a fence company. I think we're driving in and get a fence. That's not how he has to look at other marketing.
It's a very
Yeah, you look at marketing, especially this day and age, man, this is what's so amazing, is that you can do marketing now, and an AI program will develop it for you, okay? Look, Claude and McCampbell, it'll develop a marketing scheme for you, okay? And that's what people are looking at now. That's what people are looking at, right? You find a fence guy. You kick it in, first thing, you go, I need a fence guy. Hopefully have enough SEO to get you in front of the line. And if you don't have enough SEO, you're not gonna see it.
Yellow gate, that's why.
It's city, there's, it's city, it's managed by the city, there's a lot of frustrating conversation about, yes, we can keep it open, but still impacts the already bad on the subdivision. That's one of the main concerns, you know. I personally don't really care that way, if it's open or not. But I know that once we open it and all the commercial and industrial trucks are using that, it's gonna.
Traditionally through when you do residential, especially because industrial and commercial have heavy traffic. You do not want them to channel through residential residents. That's just because it becomes a nuisance for the residential and it starts damaging those roadways. Because one of the things about residential roads, you never have the roads. They don't have an active maintenance program. We don't. And as trucks drive over them, trucks damage, which then all of a sudden you got a problem. You got a project that you got to fix. So honestly, the city, this is not healthy for us. We have to look at, from my perspective, we have to look at what's benefiting the entire. You know, it's got, what did Spock say? The needs of the few shall never outweigh the needs of the many.
Hopefully we don't keep you here for the song.
And now you discover. What's that?
Brian Freer's got one in there. So.
Yeah, they're all times. It's just not a great business.
Because those guys, aren't they going to widen it at some point? We just don't know. Don't really know. It's a roadway that we don't control. So why put any real effort into it? Sit, listen to him, but as well, like, you're going to have to find a spot. You know, he wants to get, and the thing about it is, he wants to be out here because it's close enough to just can't flip it. That's the difficulty. Like the guy right across from over here that put the sign up for the mortuary stones. Oh, yeah, I saw that.
Did you know where he was advertising?
No, situation.
Yeah, I saw it. That's the route I take to work. Hey, man.
Weird, it was odd.
What, do you know where he was advertising for?
It wasn't even it was in Creek County or something?
No, it was
Old Mogi?
no, farther down, Henrietta.
I think created his own little billboard, didn't he?
Well, I called the guy and I said, "Hey, dude, you can't have it." He goes, "Well, why not?" I said, "You can't have an offside." Yeah, the offside side. Yeah, the headstone guy. And he goes, and it was funny. He goes, "You can't." He goes, "Well, why not?" I said, "Well, first of all, it's a business in another city. Well, it's my property. I can put it wherever I want." I said, "That's not how it works, man."
I called him up and get a deal. I saw it appear. I was like, I always come in that way.
I went round and around with this guy.
I come in the back way. I was like,
I went round and around with this guy. So, you know, to explain it to him, it's kind of like, you just get to a point where you're just, don't talk anymore. It's like, I've answered your
His last
question.
name was Aikman, I think, right?
That's right. So he goes, he says, well, you can, if you got a business, we can put a sign out there, but Axon would be real small. He goes,
Yeah.
well, I got a business. I go, what is it? He goes, chickens. And I went, so you sell the chickens? Is that your marketing chickens? He goes, well, yeah. I said, okay, well, we can put one out there, but not with headstones on it. And then he caught it, and then he goes, well, what do I do if I don't do anything? I said, well, just sanction finance, no big deal, you know?
Yeah.
It's, I want to tell people, it's like, there's people that murder people every day, and they know they're not supposed to, but they do it anyways. You know, what am I gonna, you know? And then they say, well, we didn't mean to do that. Well, you know, pointing a gun and pulling the trigger, there's a pretty good chance you're gonna kill the guy. So he says, so, you know, it was, from my end, it was, yeah, then the thing he's doing, he's got roosters.
He's not doing, he better not be doing what?
Well, he's not, he's
That's
selling
a,
roosters.
that's a
but-
sensitive topic, boy.
Yeah, it's one of those things where you just go,
I would have never thought that 20, 30 years ago, but now, it's like, you get caught doing that, you're.
well, I know one guy down south is selling them abroad. Yeah, he's selling them abroad.
Wow.
And I think it's this guy. But you know what? It's like, then he went, oops, I don't want to draw any attention. And I'm like, you know what, dude, you're selling them, that's cool. Thing is, you just gotta follow the rules, man.
Yeah.
It's all simple as that. Could you imagine everybody putting signs up on their ag property for businesses, you know, everywhere? Oh my gosh. And then it's the fundamentals, my property, I can do whatever I want. It's like, that's not how it works.
Used to be the barns in the southeast that put advertisements on the.
It used to be that. It's actually now with valuation of your property, its value is because it's innocent. If it's in the county, it's not as valuable, man. You know, there's that symbiotic relationship that you have. But yeah, that guy, you know, with the fence thing, I remember talking to him. It's like, hey, you know, you're gonna be limited. It's hard to get in and out. Oh, I know. It's like, yeah, it's hard. It's like,
Like, how do you get a truck? Like, how do you get a truck out of there?
You know, he says, well, I talked to ODOT. I says, you know, ODOT, the thing about it is, remember, they did the overpass as a quick patch. It wasn't part of the large plan. They didn't really want to do it, but they had to. You know? And so, is it the most ideal alignment and arrangement for the whole thing? Let's just go grab something. You gonna grab something to eat?
You sure, bro?
Yeah, I ate right before I came out. Hey, I need to get your
Local schools that are going to meet tomorrow night. If we don't have parents on, I'm not going to happen.
And the top priority is safety upgrade. It's off the schools are concerned about the changes they've made in work with parents as well.
There's nowhere else I'd rather read my kids than this community.
Melissa Reed graduated from Glenpool. Now she lives and teaches here. Her kids, Glenpool students.
It's great.
The district trying to keep it great.
We have four
Superintendent Curtis Layton tells me a lot of visual upgrades coming to his schools. Bond projects like an upgraded press box adding on to the high school report happening at the same time. But the biggest changes that you don't see. Multiple safety upgrades across the district. Layton tells me thanks to a couple grants, each school should see safety improvements. Things like a tracking system for students on the bus. Other things like improving school intercom system, upgrading security cameras, even a digital map of each school site. Another safety feature Superintendent Layton told me about was bulletproof film that they'll be putting on the windows of every school building here. Another layer of protection, giving Reed peace of mind for both her students and her own kids.
And we're going to do whatever we can to make sure that they get to go home for their dinner. I told them. So, I thought about that a lot. And I want their classroom that my own kids there, and when I teach the ones.
So at parent meeting, you mentioned happened.
Yeah.
guys.
Excellent. I'll be taking the rest of it. So I can, basically, you just did the music here, so it's separate. Oh, thanks,
Okay.
It's ready to go, it'll ask you to pick your languages, do all that.
Okay, cool. How about your Portuguese?
Does it make sense?
It's starting to make more sense, yes.
We're about done. Oh, we still got other meetings.
We got 3 more meetings. Brian's been waiting patiently for us tonight.
Well, that's why
Brian, I hope you
we
ate.
put him at least on gyms and GIA. Got him out of here.
Yeah.
Do we need to do a vote on recommittee or we just reconvene?
Does it say, Mayor?
It just says reconvene, so there's no
Mayor's
motion.
going to recognize the council and reconvene in regular session.
Hold on just a second.
Yeah, so we're back in open session. I would just say we're on agenda item 10 and see if anybody has a motion.
We are reconvening in a regular session at 9:06. Would you recall the roll, please?
Counselor Fox,
Here.
Vice Mayor Lund,
Here.
Mayor Hopper.
Here.
I don't think your motion.
Oh, so sorry, I'm turning off. That's 9 o'clock, I'm sleeping. Counselor Brooks.
Here.
And we do have a quorum. Item number 10, discussion and possible action to approve or deny A, an increase in base salary and fringe benefits, and B, a performance incentive bonus for David Tillison, city manager, as required by Section 6 and 7 of the amended and restated city manager employment contract. Are there any questions or any comments? Hearing none, I will make the motion on item 10 that we approve for David Tillison a performance and incentive bonus, the performance and incentive bonus in the amount of $10,000. That's the motion. Do we have a second? Second. We have a motion. We have a second. Would you please call the roll?
Mayor Calvert,
Yes.
Counselor Brooks,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Lund,
Yes.
Counselor Fox.
Yes.
And it does pass. Moving on to item 11, discussion and possible action to approve or deny proposed changes, if any, to the amended and restated city manager employment contract. There was no action taken, and we are adjourned at 9:08. Moving on into our next meeting, it's the Glenpool Utility Service Authority's regular meeting. And Leslie, if we may have a roll call for that meeting, please.
Trustee Fox,
Here.
Vice Chair Lund,
Here.
Chair Calvert,
Here.
Trustee Buchanan, Trustee Brooks.
Here.
I think David's management report stands as read unless there's any additional, David, you have for this meeting.
No, ma'am.
Trustee comments, are there any?
No.
Are there any public comments, please? We'll move right on into our consent agenda. It's just item 1, approving the minutes. Does anyone need me to remove the minutes for further discussion? Hearing none, do we have a motion on the minutes?
I make a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Would you please call the roll?
Vice Chair Lund,
Yes.
Chair Calvert,
Yes.
Trustee Fox,
Yes.
Trustee Brooks.
Yes.
And it does pass. Scheduled business, item 1, presentation of the proposed fiscal year 26-27 annual budget. Josh Brandon, our finance director, will talk to us on that again.
Nothing further to
Nothing further to add. Okay. Wastewater treatment, item 2, wastewater treatment facility project monthly update. David, is there anything additional that you wanted to add?
No, Mayor, the report is presented to the board for review. I'll answer any questions you may have.
Thank you very much. That's a non-action item. We're moving on to 3, discussion and possible action to approve or deny proposed changes, if any, to the amended and restated city manager employment contract that were approved by the city council at its regular meeting on May the 4th. We had that discussion, and there is no, here do I have to?
Correct.
There's nothing here that there was no action on that. Item 4, discussion and possible action to approve or deny an increase in base salary and fringe benefits and a performance incentive bonus for David Tillison, city manager, that was approved by the city council at its regular meeting as required by sections 6 and 7 of the amended and restated city manager employment contract. It still remains as previous. Where is it at?
It's,
a performance incentive bonus for David Tillison, city manager, in the amount of $10,000.
We have to vote on that. Motion.
The reason this is on both agendas is because GUSA is a party to that employment contract, so we want to make sure both public bodies approve that.
So do we have a motion again on item 4? I'll make the motion again that we approve the incentive bonus as stated. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Would you please call the roll?
Chair Calvert,
Yes.
Trustee Fox,
Yes.
Vice Chair Lund,
Yes.
Trustee Brooks.
Yes.
And it does pass. And we are adjourned at 9:11. And we'll move right on into our Glenpool Industrial Authority regular meeting. If we may have a roll call for that, please.
Trustee Fox,
Here.
Vice Chair Lund,
Here.
Chair Calvert,
Here.
Trustee Buchanan, Trustee Brooks.
Here.
We have a quorum. Do we have trustee comments?
No.
Do we have any public comments, please? Hearing none, we'll go into our consent agenda. Item 1, is there a motion on the consent agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second that. Could we have a roll call, please?
Vice Chair Lund,
Yes.
Chair Calvert,
Yes.
Trustee Fox,
Yes.
Trustee Brooks.
Yes.
And it does pass. Item 1, presentation of the proposed annual budget 26-27. I don't think that, Josh, there's anything additional, so it stands as read. And we are adjourned at 9:13, and we will open up the meeting of the Glenpool Area Emergency Medical Service District's regular meeting. May we have a roll call, please?
Trustee Fox,
Here.
Vice Chair Lund,
Here.
Chair Calvert,
Here.
Trustee Buchanan, Trustee Brooks.
Here.
We have a quorum. We'll now have the EMS report from our very own Brian Cook.
This report, excuse me, is March 30th through April 28th. We logged 114 calls for service. We had a 93% response time compliance. 84 were transported, 18 refused, 7 canceled, 3 mutual aid received, 1 DOA, and 1 mutual aid given.
Thank you very much, so. Do we have any, we don't have a district administrator.
Nothing other than what's in the packet.
Any trustee comments? Any public comments? We'll go into the consent agenda. Do we have a motion on our consent?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Do we have a second, please?
Second.
Would you call the roll, please, Leslie?
Vice Chair Lund,
Yes.
Chair Calvert,
Yes.
Trustee Fox,
Yes.
Trustee Brooks.
Yes.
And it does pass. Moving on to item 2, to approve the purchase orders, receiving
No,
report.
that's on the consent.
Oh, I'm sorry. Let me skip on down to item 1. Schedule business public hearing for the purpose of receiving public comments, if any, on the proposed fiscal year 26-27 annual budget. We'll go ahead and open the public hearing at this time, and Josh Brandon will speak to us now.
Good evening. Yes, this is included in your packet. This
9:14.
current year projection, Jim's fund has continued to steadily increase in fund balance. We are projecting Jim's to operate $43,761 to the good this year. That underlying net assessed value continues to increase. So again, this is Jim's receives 3.09 mil of the ad valorem taxes. And so from 2024 to 2025, that net assessed value increased 9.4%. So from 139 million to 152 million was the most recent number received from the county. And so that places next year's proposed tax revenue just over $456,000. So as it stands right now, as proposed, we have a surplus being transferred to fund balance of $28,143.
Very good. Thank you for that. Any questions of Josh, counselors? Hearing none, do we have any public comments? Hearing none, I will close the public hearing at 9:16. And that is a non-action item, so we are adjourned at 9:16. Thank you, people, it's good. I'm glad you're all tongue-tied.